Hey folks, Aaron here. I wanted to give you all an update on our Operation Language Stories micro stories sub project. All right, so if you don't know what this is, first of all, I guess I'll go through and show you just a little bit. So we are creating a library of free stories for anyone to use if you are learning a language, okay? Because research has shown that simply reading through stories that you can understand is one of the best things that you can do to help you learn a new language. So that is what we are setting out to do, to create a library of free resources that anyone can go through to read and help them learn. But one of the problems is that most of the readings out there, most of the stories that you can find in your target language are not beginner level. They are too high. They're either for adults or they're for kids, so they're boring, right? And so you want to find that delicate balance of stories that are easy enough for you to read and understand, but also not designed for kids. Okay, so that's what Operation Language Stories is all about. If you saw my video last week, or last maybe 2-3 weeks ago, I will link to that down in the description below this video. Basically, it was just a call for help from all of you. And what I asked everyone to do was to just write a very short story. That's why I call it Operation Micro Stories. So 1 to 300 words, write a very short story and copy and paste it, leave the whole thing in the description. I'm sorry, not in the description, in the comment section of my video. Okay, so we had a lot of people leaving little stories, which is awesome. Like very short stories, okay, that people, you can just come up with them off the top of your head, really. They don't need to be Shakespeare, right? What we're looking for is a lot of material to help people with. Okay, my goal for the last several weeks has been to share one story every day. Oops. Um, my wife is sharing TikToks with me. One story every day. Um, and as you can see, I've been pretty consistent with that. I try to post a story every day to the comment section of this video. So I will link to that below if you are interested in sharing a story. Okay. Like I also said, I personally paid to have all of the stories up until now translated into Thai. All right. So I went on Fiverr.com. Let me pull that up real quick. Fiverr.com, and it's pretty cheap. I just typed in Thai translator, and then boom, a lot of people that are willing to translate, for $5-10. The cheapest ones that I've found have been 2,000 words for $20. So that's what I did. I went on and I just copied and pasted a bunch of these stories. All right, like this one was written by Macintosh Alex and Company. I wrote this one. I wrote most of them because I'm doing it every day. Here's one by a different person. Right, I just copied and pasted a whole bunch of them into one document, and then I went on Fiverr, had them translate it for $20, and now that was what, 6-7 stories that I got translated for relatively cheap. Okay, I am paying for these stories to be translated into Thai, and in fact, if you go into the Operation Language Stories website library, click on Thai, boom, there it is. There's all the stories that I paid for to be translated into Thai. Most of them I wrote, and also a lot of them were contributions by other people. But anyways, that's very useful for me because I'm learning Thai. One thing I want to point out, well, by the way, if anyone feels inclined to help translate these stories into any other language for people who are learning different languages than me, that by all means, I am all for that. I want these to be out there and available for people to help learn any language, as many languages as possible. One thing I do want to point out, though, for people who are interested in helping to share stories, if you go through here and look at a lot of these stories, they're not actually beginner level stories. Okay. And I'm not blaming anyone. I was doing it myself. Okay. If you look, my story that I posted on 2/24, I called it Family Ununion. All right. This is the story of a couple that is at a family reunion, and then they decide to get a divorce at the family reunion. So I thought it would be a clever, sort of witty title to call it Family Ununion. There's a play on words. All right. And that's sort of cute and clever, but it's not beginner friendly, right? Like no beginner who is just learning English is going to look at that and understand what it means. And I found out real quick when I opened up when I paid for these stories to be translated into Thai, and then I started trying to read them to practice, and I couldn't understand a lot of them. You know, like Earth's intervention. I really appreciate this person going through the work to submit a story, but I can't understand it because it's like a science fiction thing and it's just above my level, which is why I labeled it as intermediate, which is fine, by the way. We need intermediate stories too. You know, I want to have stories for all levels. But what I realized, what happened to me when I went through and I tried to start reading these stories and I just couldn't. What I realized is I need to start focusing on writing very, very simple stories. Okay, so if you look at my most recent one up here, it's called breakfast, right? That's a word that most people know, unless you're a very, very, very beginner. All right. And so if you actually go through and look at my stories from the last 3, 4, 5 days, I have made a concerted effort to really dumb down the vocabulary, as opposed to some of the stories that I had been posting earlier. Like here, a Hogben fan, Ben has been submitting some great stories that are really interesting, and that's the hard part. You don't want to dumb down your stories, right? Like you want them to be interesting, and that's what I was doing earlier. I wanted them to be a little bit edgy and kind of shocking very often, you know, and so it's hard. You don't want to write stories that feel like they're children's stories. So there's sort of a balance in there. Anyways, I have been trying really hard to dumb down the language, at least the language, if not the content of these stories. So here's an example of one of my more recent ones. I'm trying to use very simple language, and I'll just read it to you. Daniel is a young boy. He is 11 years old. Today, Daniel will go to a new school. All right, that's very basic, easy, simple stuff. In the morning, Daniel's mother makes breakfast for him. She makes eggs, pancakes, and bacon. I don't know, perhaps pancakes might not be a super simple beginner term that all beginners know, but whatever, they'll figure it out. Daniel likes bacon and pancakes, but he does not like eggs. Daniel says, "Mom, I don't want the eggs. I only want to eat the pancakes and bacon." Daniel's mother says, "Son, you have to eat the eggs too. They are healthy." Daniel eats the eggs, but he does not like them. Then Daniel goes to his new school. Today is Daniel's first day of 6th grade. But when Daniel is at school, he hears many people screaming. People are running down the hallways. They are very afraid. Daniel's teacher says, "Look, there are 2 big monsters. They are eating people." Daniel looks out the window and he sees 2 big monsters. One monster is very big, and the other monster is very, very, very big. The monster that is very, very, very big puts her hand through the window and grabs Daniel. She pulls Daniel out through the window and gives him to the smaller monster. But the smaller monster says, "Mom, I don't want to eat this one. I don't like the students. I only like to eat the teachers." But the very, very, very big monster says, "Son, you have to eat the students too. They are healthy." Then the smaller monster eats Daniel. The end. Okay, so perhaps it's not a child-friendly story, and it's not meant to be. It's just meant to use very simple language that a beginner in the language is able to understand, and that's the goal. Okay. Now, again, I'm very appreciative of anyone who submits stories of any level, whether that's beginner level or advanced or intermediate. But what I'm really asking for people to really push for is those very simple, beginner friendly stories. Okay. So um, we'll take anything, but maybe if you are a writer and you have fun writing a little bit more um, adult centered stories that would be interesting to adults, maybe push yourself and try to see how simple you can keep your language while still writing a story that's interesting to adults, because that is the holy grail. That's what we're looking for. It doesn't have to be just because it's simple doesn't mean it has to be a story about a little boy eating breakfast and going to school, right? It can be uh, interesting and complicated and have deep meaning, even though the wording is very simple, and that's what we're looking for. So anyways, that's an update. I really appreciate all of the help that people have been giving, and I look forward to seeing the rest of your stories in the future. Bye bye.